This is going to be a tricky video to make because I don't want to come off as negative. I love Pokemon Unite, and I think there is way too much invalid hatred around the game as is with the whole pay-to-win lie. If you're losing lane, it's not because someone spent $100 to get a 1 to 2% stat advantage against you. It's just because they're better than you or have more time in the game. That's it. And another thing I have issue with are the people saying, oh, the devs intentionally released Sylveon to be too strong so everyone would spend money on it and then they nerf it and make it useless. They're just a greedy, money-hungry company. That's just pure idiocy. And the funny thing is, all the people, literally every person I have seen make that comment has spent AOS coins on Sylveon. So, not gems, not money. That's weird, and it's just a stupid narrative to begin with because Mamoswine wasn't like, oh, needed an instant nerf, people spent money on it. Blastoise was bugged, and after the bug fix, turned out to be strong, but not too strong, not game-breaking, and if you like the Surf Hydro Pump set, you were untouched. So you still have strong Blastoise if you got it, and it's good enough. Blissey needs some buffs, is now taking over the game, and it hasn't been nerfed yet. Gardevoir, a lot of people see Gardevoir as low tier, even though it has, like, in-game crazy pop-off potential. And then Zeraora. These are all the new Pokemon that we've got, and Zeraora is free, and the second best character, if not the first best character in the game, depending on how Lucario is feeling that day. And it's free, and people aren't taking this opportunity. So they're getting upset like other things being broken, or their AOS coins, or how they're spending money on their Pokemon, or they wasted on Charizard, Absol, or Slowbro, and then they get mad at everyone else. Or they straight up play Crustle wrong by going Stealth Rock Score Shield in games, then wonder why they're losing. So I mean, that's just the community disconnect that we've seen, but from what I've seen out of Sylveon, it's not malice. Here's how it went down. If you bought Sylveon on launch immediately because it's one of your favorite Pokemon, or you're just super hyped for it, yeah, it feels a little unfortunate, but the Pokemon is playable. It's not nearly as strong, and it's kind of weak compared to the rest of the roster, even though I feel it's like really well balanced right now. But the thing about Pokemon Unite is that balanced isn't good. Like, I think Pikachu is really balanced, but just needs to be stronger. Like, Pokemon in general need to be stronger to compete with the power creep that's going on. That's a different story. Kinda. Now, by the end of the first day, people started catching on as to what's up with Sylveon. Like, if you spend any time in Reddit, Discord, playing games, you're just gonna realize, yo, this Pokemon's busted, maybe I should pick it up. And at that point, people were starting to use it to, like, climb rank. I saw so many comments that were like, no, why is Sylveon getting nerfed? I got from Great Tier to Vet, or I went from Vet to Ultra. You know, people were having some mad climbs because the Pokemon was clearly busted. So by day 2, if you bought it, you were doing it to exploit a broken Pokemon, which you know is getting nerfed. And also, the possibility of a hotfix is on the table after what we've seen with like patches and like quick fixes and stuff. Not necessarily for Pokemon damage nerfs. I think the Gengar nerf was inside of another patch, but everyone playing Gengar and everyone just playing Pokemon Unite knew that Gengar was way too ridiculous. It was just the Gengar meta, and Sylveon quickly developed into that. So, of course, it was getting nerfed. If it got nerfed sooner than you thought, I mean, that's just good for the game to fix a problem quickly because, man, that got a lot of likes. And I'm not going to be malicious and toxic like most of the Pokemon community has been warped into. I'm not going to go, oh, this was unacceptable to release Sylveon like this. When you look at the effect of the nerf, you can actually see where they thought Sylveon might land. Because with the amount that Sylveon got nerfed in numbers, Sylveon got nerfed more in mental. Because people would just let Sylveon beat them since it was the new character. Did it need a nerf? Absolutely. But like we saw with Gengar, you know, you can hit a Pokemon strongly or pretty good and then keep it good viable to strong. Like Gengar can still take off and like still wipe out entire teams with Hex. It's just a lot harder for it to do so because it has counterplay. Sylveon has counterplay and then it takes one more ability rotation to go off, but I think 20% damage and like almost 40% definitely right here was just way too much. Hyper Voice probably could have used like a 1 second increase in duration, or like a 5% damage nerf, but make it to where it goes on cooldown when you're done yelling. Or, you know, like 1 second more cooldown and then 10% damage nerf on the Hyper Voice. Like, I would have liked to see some cooldown play more than just nerfing the raw damage behind it and keeping Sylveon in like some kind of crazy either one-shots or gets one-shot power fantasy. But Talonflame already has that. And Talonflame's allowed to exist, but Sylveon gets nerfed, even though I think Sylveon needed the nerf more. And Mystical Fire, I think people just didn't understand how to counterplay it yet. That first hit does all the damage. So if you go in on Sylveon after that, like, people were getting scared. People were running away like, oh man, that first hit did so much, and then the rest of the fire chases them down, and then Sylveon gets to jump to them while they're running away, not threatening Sylveon at all. then Sylveon's going to feel a lot stronger. So I don't think Mystic Fire was actually that good. You can win 1v1s, and you can do some crazy things, but it was definitely being, like, overrated and over-respected and over-feared. Kind of same thing on the Hyper Voice, where it's like people just sit in the edge and then take it. So it feels like early Cramorant Whirlpool. That Cramorant Whirlpool got nerfed, and then after Cramorant Whirlpool got nerfed, Cramorant just was not as good. Like, Cramorant got nerfed more than the numbers of Whirlpool because people at the same time, or like quickly after, started realizing we just can't sit in this. And this is like Cramorant's entire goal. So let's not let him do that. Same thing for Sylveon. It's like, Sylveon wants you in that sweet spot, so don't. It is hard in some situations where you're running away and you're getting, like, perfectly chased by it, or the Calm Mind runs you down at level 6 or something, but at the same time, like, just turn into Sylveon and see what happens in some situations, and Sylveon has to back off, and then that messes up its ability angles and stuff. So what I'm trying to get at is I could see how the mistake of making it too strong could have played out, and I don't see it as malicious, and if they wanted to make money, they would have waited more than 48 hours, because then people have been like, oh, no nerf yet? I guess it's getting nerfed next week. I guess we got some time to play with this. Weekend is coming. They nerfed it before the weekend. They nerfed it before Friday, guys. How stupid do you have to be to think that there was actually a cash grab here? When again, like, all the other Pokemon disproved that, and then just everything, like, when you look at Sylveon, it got nerfed harder than it needed to, so now it kind of feels bad. If it gets some kind of compensation buff, either next patch or the patch after, then, like, you didn't waste your money. Even the current state, you haven't wasted your money. You just need to have a brain now. You have to have a team composition around Sylveon. And if you picked up bad habits from the first 2 days, you'll have to untrain those a bit, but you still turn online super crazy. Like, Sylveon's a level 468. That's nuts. And it has one of the best abilities at level 4 instead of having to wait till level 6 or something. Okay, so I spent a lot more time on Sylveon than I wanted to, but like I said, I don't want to come off as negative in this video, mostly just concerned and actually having good criticism that isn't just the devs suck. You know, so my problem is, with all that's been going on, with all the balance we've seen, how is Lucario still allowed to be the best character in the game? And I guess I've just kind of come to accept that since Zeraora was a Switch promotion, they couldn't nerf it until people on mobile got their hands on it, and since it's a mobile promotion, people still need to, like, get access to it and then play with it and, like, have the same accessibility as everyone else had with broken, busted, unacceptable Zeraora. But then we can see, like, what they're doing with speedsters is also weird and doesn't make sense. Like, this offense is a lie. 3.5 stars? Nah, not 3. Zeraora is 5 stars if we go back and we see that Pikachu is 4.5 stars. That's a lie. That's just wrong. So, I mean, like, the speedster philosophy should be something like in Pokemon, the main series, where you look at Electrode, one of the fastest Pokemon in the game, doesn't have crazy offensive or defensive stats. Same thing with Jolteon. 130 speed, 110 special attack. 110 special attack, kind of average, kind of middling in the modern era of Pokemon. Cleaning up with a speedster Pokemon in the main series is one of the greatest feelings, where they have nothing faster because you sacrificed 4 or 5 of your Pokemon to remove the one speedy threat and chip damage the rest of their team, to where now, even though it doesn't do a lot of damage, you just need to do like half to the rest of their team and you win, and there's nothing they can do about it. So I mean, like, speed needs to come at some kind of cost. Scoring needs to come at some kind of cost. But instead, it seems like the philosophy is speedsters just need to be the highest damage Pokemon in the game, as shown with Talonflame, as shown with Absol, as shown with Zeraora, and even Gengar is still, like, crazy damage potential on that as a speedster. So I'm confused by the ratings philosophy and what they're trying to get at and why speedsters are the ultimate Giga Burst Pokemon, but then what pisses me off the most, how do they nerf Cramorant twice? And they target Cramorant in multiple ways. They hit the early game like I talked about with the Whirlpool nerf, even though people were like adapting to Whirlpool at pretty much the exact time it got nerfed. So it's like, okay, early game oppression is not good for the game according to the devs, unless you're Lucario, where you just have uncontestable quick attack into Meteor Mash into Steadfast. I'm not even counting Score Shield because Score Shield is a suck item. Like, if you're overcommitting and overscoring on Score Shield, you're just giving up way too much other stuff for it to actually matter. All it does is beat up on lesser skilled players that don't really have that great of game sense or that crack under pressure. If you just kind of like don't let it beat you, it doesn't beat you, and then you come out experience neutral or positive, and maybe your goal is a little weaker, but that doesn't matter when Zapdos is worth 500 points. So that's not my problem with Lucario. My problem with Lucario is that the uncontestability and the sheer power in lane, and also level 5 extreme speed, starting to turn on a little too soon. Like, Lucario gets level 5 and then it's the best Pokemon in the game with extreme speed, because in a 2v2 lane, there's multiple targets and potentially a wild Pokemon and Vespiquen or a gank or shenanigans to where, like, it's getting too many resets. It's going to dash behind people, push them into your ally, your team, your jungler or something, and then keep on dashing and just make it impossible to do anything about. Like, the crowd control and damage on Meteor Mash is too much, quick attack damage is too much, the cooldown's too much, and then if it overcommits, now it's got Steadfast and it's okay, bro. And I know there is a melee all-rounder philosophy that you kind of need to hold on to, where they need to be stronger than most Pokemon, and they need to have a lot of crazy stuff in their kit, so that way they don't just get kited out and die instantly without being, like, useful. But even on both dash moves, again, don't run Power Punch, it's the worst one. But I mean, like, you still charge up, and then you get to dash in, and then you get Unstoppability. Now, the Unstoppability comes on a little late, but it can get kind of crazy. And even then, like, you're playing a mind game. If you don't have crowd control, and you're, like, waiting for Lucario to unleash the Power Punch, like, things are still going to get weird from there on, like, just how it plays out. And then it lands the Bone Rush, and then cooldown starts getting reduced, or same thing on the close combat. So, like, Lucario's still sticky. And then extreme speed is giga sticky, you can't do anything about it, and still ridiculous amounts of damage. So it's like 778 damage, and you get 3 uses or more. I don't know about that one, Chief. A well-timed Lucario quick attack or Meteor Mash is securing every objective unless you have like a fluffy tail or something, and it gets to do it either with mobility or from range, or if it like overcommits, it has a steadfast shield to get out. And then it just has one of the highest early game attack stats in the game, and it can scale to where when it drops off, or quote-unquote drops off, its scaling is still so nuts and it's so far ahead, it doesn't really matter. But even then, at like level 11, Lucario's still here. And then like you're beating up by Machamp, or Machamp. Yeah, you're beating up by Machamp. So it's like Lucario is the speedster that isn't classified as a speedster, and it's like bulkier than speedster and does more, which is kind of stupid. So that's my problem. It's like we live in a world where we're seeing like all these nerfs, we're seeing all of this balance, and my other problem is like the balance is too sparse at this point. Sylveon patch came out, even though it wasn't a patch because they just like unlocked Sylveon because it was already in the game data. Like your game didn't even need to update. Like Sylveon comes out, no game balance. I was thinking maybe we wait for that Sylveon nerf in a week with the rest of the balance patch, and then we get this. But then like no other hotfix. You're not going to revert Talonflame? Because I'm pretty sure that's a big thing that needed to happen, was a little bit of a Talonflame revert after it's starting to take off with the fly shenanigans. I say it's pick your poison. I'm not saying gut Talonflame because I think it's kind of cool that's slightly, well, it's not slightly viable. I think it's fine if Talonflame is slightly viable, but not oppressive must-pick viable. So, I mean, when we look at these stats, either revert the attack or revert fly. Fly on 9-second cooldown, toxic. Can't have that. Increased movement speed while flying, not toxic. Can't have that. Like, I understand this is the speedster dream, but again, like, speedster plus just the high, like, one of the highest damage Pokemon in the game with Giga Burst, like, it has 2 mobility. It flies in, flame charges out, there's pretty much nothing you can do about it, and then 9 seconds later, it's back in, but since it's a speedster, it actually gets a little bit of cooldown reduction, so that's 8 seconds. I can see with like the whole speedster thing, Talonflame wants to use this to duel and backdoor, but nah, if Talonflame is just like one-shotting people and just hard diving into team fights, it's very unhealthy. So yeah, like take out the attack because it's scaling too hard, it's doing too much burst damage, or take out the fly so there's actual counterplay. That is the biggest thing you should be looking at when it comes to game balance is counterplay. And there's very little counterplay here, and now the Pokemon's toxic to the game. So that's the thing. Also, people are still complaining about Venusaur. I don't really have too many problems with Venusaur, but my issue is, like, with Venusaur, it's not allowed to be good. I think the way that Venusaur's kit just is inside of Pokemon Unite, it's either going to be worthless or it's going to be overperforming. And I think, like, right now we're on the edge, but the thing is, Venusaur does more with the lead than, like, any other Pokemon, and that gets problematic. People, it's like, when Venusaur first came out, you know, the early game of Bulbasaur, I'm pretty sure hasn't been changed at all, right? There was, like, no buffs, no nerfs, nothing like that. Like, you just bullied Bulbasaur, and you never gave it a chance. Now it is getting, like, more supportive lanes, and, like, the junglers know to camp for your Bulbasaur to get ahead. But what happens is, there's, like, an Eldegoss Venusaur lane, or a Blissey Bulbasaur lane, and people are trying to dive the Bulbasaur under goal, and then Blissey and Eldegoss are keeping it alive forever, and then Jungle shows up, Venusaur gets a double kill, and now it's too far ahead. But if that happened like any other Pokemon, like a Zeraora, Cinderace, not so much Garchomp, but then Lucario, it's like the game's about as over. So I find it very strange that everyone complains about Venusaur being too strong, but then they just play around it awfully inside the games. And like, okay, let's say Venusaur doesn't get ahead, they just like leave it an opportunity to get back into the game instead of just actually bursting it down properly. Now, maybe that means the speed boost it got was too much and that needs to be toned down just so there is that whole counterplay idea around it, since a lot of people, I just see them like miss abilities or let themselves get run over by the Venusaur when it shouldn't have happened. And then there's also just like buddy barrier issues that Venusaur does scale really well when like it Unite moves and then everyone else Unite moves, and then like it's just an impenetrable wall. You don't get to burst it down. Then it also has the Giga Drain defenses, or like just flat flat damage reduction, which is much stronger than defenses. And then you have to chew through the shield and chew through all that. But then people just don't disengage properly. I don't know. I think people are still like struggling to figure out how the game works, and Venusaur really exploits that. So that's a problem. It's kind of a noob stomper, but it's stronger than when we had noobs for the Nintendo Switch, so things are kind of weird right there. And like, those are like my only problems with the game, is that they're not being like, there's not enough patches. I feel like with how many complaints there are and how many weird things are going on, it's like, we should have gotten a patch for Sylveon. And there maybe should have been a little bit extra if they're just going to hotfix the game or something. So I feel like they're being too passive with things. And when you look at the amount of balance patches we've had, it's very surprising. I looked at this and went, really? We've only had 3 balance patches, because one of these was a Sylveon hotfix and the other one was Blissey. That was it. Like, this was a joke. This was an insult where it's like, everything else going on in the game, and only Blissey needs to be buffed? When Blissey was already starting to get like oppressive in certain compositions? I don't know about that one. And then like this happens, where it's also like super insulting that Zeraora keeps on getting buffed. Why? Zeraora is just one of the best characters in the game, and instead of nerfing Discharge, they're trying to incentivize the Wild Charge by just non-stop buffing it. That's not working, but it shows like that this implies that the devs are happy with Zeraora's power level. And I find that unacceptable. Like, that, and then Lucario, I think it also, like, the same philosophy applies to Lucario, and they keep buffing Talonflame and Absol, so Talonflame's in this position because this is where they want speedsters, and yet then they nerf Greninja? Like, I didn't find Greninja to be as overperforming or present. Like, that's just how an AD carry works. And Greninja was still squishy and didn't have, like, enough mobility. Like, okay, it can get annoying inside the smokescreen. And smokescreen was bugged. All you had to do was nerf this, like, not even nerf. Just remove the smokescreen bug to where it doesn't have 20% attack way earlier than it should. And I think Greninja is fine. But then they gut Greninja. Cinderace was, like, secretly the better AD carry the entire time, so now that just, like, really giga incentivizes Cinderace. But then people that are married to Greninja are now picking Greninja, throwing games by not picking Cinderace, or just not picking a different Pokemon. Like, you're either picking Cinderace, or you're picking something else if you wanted to pick Greninja and there isn't a Cinderace on your team, or you're just throwing the game. That's just kind of the state right now, and I don't see that as, like, a bad thing where there's mandatory picks, because there's always going to be, like, a meta and Pokemon that are better than others. And true, one tricking is a thing, but, like, Greninja's just objectively worse than the Cinderace. So yeah, like, my big problems are the lack of updates that actually affect balance, and then Zeraora, Lucario being unmentioned, Talonflame being allowed is, and then, like, in the early patches, they nerfed Machamp. So, like, Machamp went from rising in popularity to getting good to, nah, you're not allowed to be good. Lucario's supposed to be the best Pokemon in the game, and then we're just going to buff everything else. Oh, and nerf Cramorant for absolutely no goddamn reason. I still don't understand. Sylveon launches as is, but Cramorant gets nerfed. Like, that's my biggest problem with the Sylveon launch, is like, why did they nerf Cramorant? All these other Pokemon getting buffs are completely ignored. Nerf Cramorant, though. That's gotta be, like, some kind of meme. I don't get it. I still have no idea how Buddy Barrier hasn't been nerfed. Like, they need to knock off 100 hit points and, like, 5% to 10% off the passive. You know, I'm thinking, like, if you knock off 100 hit points, that's a lot. That's a lot of early game pressure that, like, scales you into your Unite move. And then also you're getting that percent of the health that's being taken out of Buddy Barrier or something. You lose 40% of 100 or whatever number we end up on. Like, I'd honestly like to see Buddy Barrier go down to 25%. I think it's balanced there. But even 30%. Like, 30% would make it less mandatory, or at least less oppressive in certain compositions, where it's like, if you're just support stacking buddy barriers behind 2 carries, which is what people are doing, you go Mr. Mime, Wigglytuff, Blissey, or there's an Eldegoss in there instead of Wigglytuff, like, you just throw in 3 from the support archetype, they all unite move with buddy barriers, and then they make the carries invincible. That's just too much because of that percentive. And if one of the people on your team isn't running buddy barrier because they're greedy, it becomes a throw because now you're losing 80% health at the Zapdos fight. That matters, and it's warping the game way too much. So, I mean, one of 2 things need to happen. Buddy Barrier needs to get nerfed so the Zapdos fights aren't as, like, volatile for how game-winning Zapdos is, or Dreadnought and Zapdos need nerfs. That way that fight where, like, all the Buddy Bear shenanigans pop off might not immediately end the game. Or just nerf both of them. Because another thing I have a problem with is, like, the lack of acknowledgement around Zapdos. That's what surprises me. That's what baffles me. Like, I don't need a Zapdos nerf. I prefer it, but I don't need it. Like, a lot of people are complaining Zapdos, you know, nerf Zapdos. We got this right here. At some point, it's your fault if you throw that hard of a lead. Like, a clutch Baron Steal will happen, and will flip a 10k gold lead from time to time. So I see this as one of those things. But also, this existing in the game feels a little too common the way that it happens, and just like one scuff fight, one teammate going, we're ahead, and then trying to score bot lane or something, just completely loses the game. So like the game knowledge behind Zapdos is costing way too many games, and also just like it is the end of the game. You know, you could survive losing a Baron fight and then them pushing a little bit with Baron, but that's it. It's like an Elder Dragon at 15 minutes. The game's decided way too quick. But my problem isn't that they haven't nerfed Zapdos, it's that they haven't acknowledged it. I just want them to go, hey, this is what we want from the game. We want Zapdos to be the big spectacle that you're working up for. Maybe it's a little strong. We're going to like kind of keep an eye on that to see how players develop around it. And if it continues to be a problem, we'll consider action. Like we'll consider something about Zapdos. I just want reassurance from the devs on the biggest problem. They're being quiet about the biggest problem, which doesn't make sense. And I don't know why, because they've been pretty open about other issues inside the game. They addressed and fixed Lucario. They addressed and fixed the Crustle Unite bug. They've also been pretty quick on fixing things like Gengar, because after they've fixed Hex, they actually bugged it to where it didn't even work at all. Like, it would just not apply damage. But they also fixed it in the first, like, they nerfed Gengar in the first patch. They're pretty on top of it. They're putting out surveys, they're addressing issues, and then they're completely quiet about Zapdos. And that concerns me. Like, That just seems like a nonsensical move. That just seems too reserved for a game developer. And I think even though Riot sucks, I think one thing that other devs or other MOBA stuff could learn from is like, Riot is very open. They have their game thoughts when it comes to upcoming patches. They have complete clarity on their beta testing. With the PBE, they also do Redo Please, and they do just like game update blogs and stuff. It's like, yeah, they talk about the game a lot. Now, I completely disagree with their trash game philosophy, and I'm so excited that Riot Scruffy is gone, because now the game is going in a much better direction almost immediately. But like, yeah, so it's like they learned that. It's like, hey, at least like if you're talking about making the wrong decision, it at least gives a bit more confidence than not acknowledging the biggest problem in the game. So, like, yeah, at least if you can defend your bad decision, it's better than being quiet about your bad decision. So, I don't know what's happening here, and that's, like, why I'm upset. And that's why I was like, I don't want this video to be negative, because I think Pokemon Unite's very balanced. Like, outside of Lucario, Zeraora, and then just, like, weird thing. Like, I don't know. It's like, I don't think Wigglytuff is strong, but Wigglytuff inside of a triple support comp is ridiculous, and that's mostly the buddy barrier issue. So, it's like, yeah, you just deal with a couple of those things. Also, some of the other items, like Nerf Focus Band, so just for diversity. Maybe it's not. It still is like the best item in the game. Maybe it's not as bad as people are saying, but it's one of those things like every once in a while you just gotta take a little bit of a chop. You gotta do a little bit of a nick on something. I say make it 10% health loss instead of 14%. Maybe, I don't think bumping the cooldown would really change too much, because people are just there for like, save your cooldown for Zapdos and Dreadnought and win the game. Also get bailed out one time in early laning, and then you're good to go. So I think like Focus Band just has that behind it, but like make other options viable in that kind of way. Leftovers just completely useless item. Energy Amplifier is on it, like just unpickable compared to Buddy Barrier, and there's just some other items that are in like weird spots are just not as strong. Float Stone on that 8 seconds after combat sucks. Rocky Helmet's useless. Scope Lens is just the best item for every attacker. Razor Claw, was thought to be like the most busted item, but I did the analysis and it's decent. It's like really good on a couple of Pokemon, but not every Pokemon, and Muscle Band just isn't good. And also, math has proven that Wise Glasses is a complete joke. So, like, Choice Specs, they could have reworked Wise Glass and Choice Specs. That one made things instantly. Now, Choice Specs just makes an item completely not exist. And now you have to go Choice Specs, Focus Band, Buddy Barrier. So, like, Triple Glasses is a meme. But that's all it is. It's a meme at best that, like, stomps lower ranked players. But it doesn't, like, it's not actually good. And EXP share is convoluted and makes no sense. We barely understand how experience works in this game. It's like, trying to make all of that happen inside of game just doesn't. EXP share, and also like the experience per second isn't good either. So this is just complete nonsense. I'd like to see something done, you know, nerf Buddy Bearer, nerf Focus Band. Maybe people start exploring other options because of that. Maybe it changes the game dynamic to where Zapdos and Dreadnought don't need to be nerfed as much, and that would have been cool. But no, we just got new items that effectively invalidated old ones. Like, Razor Claw just pretty much always beats out Muscle Band now in the few situations where Razor Claw is better. Scopeland's Focus Band Buddy Bearer is just the play, unless you want like an attack weight to scale into your Scopeland, so attack weight Scopeland's Buddy Bearer is just more optimal. I don't know. Overall, I find the game to be much more balanced than League of Legends and a lot more fun, and the 10-minute formula is what saves it. You just next. That's it. You just go into the next game, and you go try to have fun again, and then you get a little better, and then you just kind of vibe it out. And even if you have bad teammates, hey, like, Season 1 rank doesn't matter. Maybe people get it together by Season 2. Either way, I'm just out there having fun, wrecking kids. Like, you get into that good lobby, not the bot lobby. Just get into that good lobby where everything goes right, and then the last 3 losses don't even matter anymore, and you're just having a good time. So, I mean, like, Pokemon Unite's a very fun game. I do like that it is more, on the like higher end, you know, it's more top heavy on power skew, but that does create problems when problems are refused to be acknowledged or addressed or not frequently updated, and that's my problem more than anything else. The game isn't pay to win. You're an idiot. Sylveon wasn't a cash grab. You're an idiot. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. WolfGlick lied and cheated in official VGC events as a complete fraud. Thank you very much for watching.